E3 is oh so close, and we think it's going to be a spectacular showcase for Nintendo. We've discussed our hopes, our dreams, and your predictions too. But what if it becomes a nightmare for the Big N? What would it take to flip this thing upside down in the worst way? What's up, everybody? It's Zach from Switchforce. I've got Jake and Gabe here, and there's always the other side of the coin. We definitely believe that the Switch will be stellar in its first E3 appearance, but there's always a chance things go wrong.
I hope the Big N does not stand for the big no-no this year at E3.
Yes, please, no no-nos. I think we can all agree that it's probably going to be a good showing, and they've got a good lineup already, but I thought it'd be interesting today to just kind of figure out where would this become a nightmare for us and for Nintendo. So we're going to have a general discussion, and then we've each picked two personal nightmares that would really ruin the week for each of us. So in general, I think the first way this could go bad is if there is nothing new. If it truly is just a 2017 dedicated showcase.
Roundup.
Yeah, I mean, Rabbids has leaked, so that bunny is out of the bag.
Yes.
Nice.
And so... it wouldn't be terrible by any means. They've got a great showing of Odyssey, Fire Emblem Warriors, Xenoblade 2, Rabbids, but it would begin to kind of signal, like, maybe this smells bad. And I think the next thing that would really kind of begin the turn would be delays.
Nah, see, delays is something I'm not really worried about. You guys can correct me in the comments, and I'm sure you will. Nintendo doesn't delay things a whole lot, right? Like, not to my knowledge.
Breath of the Wild?
Well,
anybody?
other than Breath of the Wild, a whole bunch. Like, they don't do it.
Okay.
They don't do it often, right? Like,
it's not as frequent as some other publishers now.
Yeah, okay.
You're right there.
Okay, so I think what worries me the most is the fact that, like, what are we going to see from third parties? Like, yeah, Payday 2 is coming, great. Dragon Ball is coming, great. The rumored maybe Dark Souls, that would actually be great. But like, what else other than a what may or may not be a GIMP version of FIFA? We are getting a full version of 2K18, but I want to see more. What else is third party doing to get on board? The Switch is obviously a success of some kind. There's a decent install base, and it's like growing at a very steady pace. So third party really needs to show up, I feel. And if they kind of skip out, or like they're still playing the wait and see game, I think that would be like really disappointing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because Nintendo's kind of carried the Switch so far, so now it's kind of see who else hops on the hype train of the Switch. That's now been validated hype. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with that being a major disappointment.
I want to ask you guys, what would be worse? No new Nintendo stuff or no new third-party stuff?
No new Nintendo stuff, at least for me. I mean,
yeah,
because I feel like you mentioned, like the leak of Rabbids is out. Mario Odyssey we kind of know is a spiritual successor to 64 and Sunshine, so it's not like a brand new game there. So they can't show anything super exciting about those two games, and we know about ARMS and Splatoon already in depth. So it's kind of like, what else are they going to show? And I know they're not going to like go into like, this is our net lineup for the next 5 years, but at least to show that they have momentum going into 2018 and at least some teases of that will really bum me out if they don't show anything past Mario Odyssey and Rabbids.
That's, I think, a legit concern. I don't know that they have to show anything past Mario Odyssey.
They don't have to, but it'd be nice to at least get like a tease for like a Pikmin or Donkey Kong or Metroid or something.
Yeah, and that,
we have these games, especially since Rabbids leaked. Like if that was their big thing, then that would be fine. But since that already leaked, to have something that they could like say like, we have these games, but now we also have this one. Like you gotta have some surprise somewhere.
I think like for me personally, it would be worse if there were no new Nintendo announcements. But I think for the Switch in general, if Nintendo just stayed put with their current lineup.
What if they just come out and say, we're not accepting any third-party games?
No, gosh, no. But that's what I was getting at. I think no like real third-party gem is more of a knock and more of a nightmare than nothing new from Nintendo, because they already, barring any just catastrophic delays, we know they've got a pretty good list for the rest of the year. But like you said, Gabe, like what is it from third party? And if that doesn't show up, I think frankly that is more worrisome for the overall Switch ecosystem than Nintendo not divulging their 2018 plans.
I feel like the third party things need to be like exclusives, or I like Payday 2 doesn't move the needle for me at all. Like that game has been out for many years. Like I'm not playing.
What if it's all just like old ports and they don't have any new third party stuff? How would you feel about that?
Not great.
Would you still be super disappointed, or is that a lean in the right direction?
No, I don't think it needs to be exclusives. I think actually it needs to be showing some percentage of parity, and obviously it's not going to even be
very difficult
anywhere near. And I know it's tricky, but I would like to see some showing that, like, hey, we are going to try and match, at least a couple of the things that the PS4 and Xbox One can offer. And they're going to be doing that to sports games, and hopefully that those pan out to be nearly complete versions of those games. But we definitely want to see more. In terms of Mario Odyssey, what about that game could leave you with your head in your hands?
If they only show the same worlds we've already seen, and it's basically just like an extension of Mario 64. And
that's what a lot of people want, though.
But I know, but without any new worlds. Like if it's just like those 4 worlds, and then that's it, and they're very big,
like a very limited, not a whole lot of levels, like a couple big levels, and that's it.
Yeah, like they've already shown the levels, and they just kind of go into more detail on like a walk through, like run Mario around New Donk City and the Egyptian place and the forest, and then that's it. Like they don't show anything new. Like I told them I'm bored. Like, I want it to be like Mario 64 and Sunshine. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if they have that, but it's only like a few small worlds that they've already shown, and they can't really show anything else. Or if it's like super easy and like kid friendly. I mean, well, like not kid, like extremely easy and like just not fun to play. Like
that's my fear. Like we know that they're going to go back to the Mario 64 Sunshine formula. But I hope that actually happens rather than like, hey, we really enjoyed more of the just level completion aspect of Super Mario 3D World, or even the slightly open but more complete level aspect of Galaxy, just, get to the end. I hope that they really do double down on, collecting a number of stars in these big worlds. For me personally, if they only showed the same 4, that's fine, because that there's got to be more there. But I just really want to see that gameplay-wise, this actually is an evolution of those titles rather than an evolution of 3D World. I mean, it still would be great either way, but I think that would set me. It would make me sit back down in my chair.
I'm not worried about Mario Odyssey at all, to be honest. So this isn't a legit worry, but yeah, for like. Odyssey having a lukewarm reception at best, that is like a real nightmare scenario for Nintendo, yes.
Oh, yeah, because I think we're all expecting it to be like a 10 out of 10. Like, I think there's no doubt in anyone's mind currently that thing doesn't wow.
I get a little bit of a sickness in my stomach when I see some of the boss designs and level designs for some of the landscapes in the game, because from the trailer we've seen, because they're very reminiscent of like 3D World or Galaxy, especially the boss setups. And so I really hope that they go back to a more hardcore Sunshine 64 type feel, because there were some incredibly difficult and skill-based things in Sunshine that I had to go back years later and still took me many, many tries. Whereas I feel like Galaxy and 3D World, while still fun, were much more accessible to all ages. And I would love it to be a middle ground where there's some stuff that, you can complete the game by doing easy stuff, but they have, those extra stars that are much more challenging, and it's not all this like weird, like the Galaxy 3D World 3-dimensional, I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean, like the world shape of them is very bothersome to me. But maybe that's just a personal qualm.
Now, of course, any new big Mario game is gonna be great. We all love 3D World. We all frankly loved almost every Mario. I think it's just we've been set up to believe that this one is gonna be big, it's gonna be bold, it's gonna be open, it's gonna be explorative, and so they've set us up to be so excited for that, and it would be a letdown if they end up 180. Staying on the Mario side of things, I think that Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, like we've kind of gotten over the initial like, what the heck, Rabbids. So now it's up to them to really show gameplay that wins us over, and I think that's the game that could really wobble either way the fastest, because if it comes out and it's incredibly cringeworthy and it's incredibly simplistic, people are going to dismiss that thing right away and deem it a bad decision to allow the Rabbids into the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, there's already been some gameplay details out that make it sound like it has to be more complex than this, but if it's like 4 characters in a line, like press A to shoot your laser beam, I will literally cry. Another thing that will make me cry is if there's a bunch of screaming Rabbids. Like, there better be a toggle in the options menu to like turn off Rabbid screams.
Well, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's not gonna be a thing.
It was a joke, okay, guys?
We're gonna double down on the Rabbid screams. Don't you worry.
Oh, please.
Fire Emblem Warriors, I feel like we kind of know what that game is. There were some screenshots shown recently, and I don't think that one can really... I mean, unless the frame rate's terrible and the performance is super paltry, I don't think that we can get very disappointed by that because you kind of know what it is. I feel like it has room to impress, but I don't think it can really depress all that much. Xenoblade 2, and we'll get into this in a second with your your nightmare, Gabe, but I feel like that game, people are putting a lot of stake in that one being big, bold, and bringing it our way this year.
Yeah, and again, we'll get into that in a little bit, so I don't even want to touch on that because you're kind of stepping on my toes here. I feel where we should go with this is Virtual Console, and
absolutely,
and whether that gets announced, mentioned, like anything. You're confident
we've decided to port all the NES Mini and SNES Mini games to Switch. That's it.
No.
Yeah, no, I feel like they might not even talk about it. You're very confident that they will, and this is one that I'm happy to be wrong with. It's worrisome that they're not addressing it a whole lot. And even if they do address it and say, "Hey, Virtual Consoles,"
what if they? Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
I'll say, even if they do address it and say, "Hey, Virtual Console's coming," what does that mean? How many games are we getting? Like, we know that they're going to trickle them out like little by little. So, what are the big ones at first? Like,
I'm just picturing. I really hope that they don't put a big VC on the screen and then they say it's very close to coming out.
Oh dear. No, I think the big concern is either A, I'm not even gonna say A. No mention seems impossible at this point. It's got to be there. So I think it would be either B, it's like, hey, this is coming out holiday 2017, or C, it has an extremely limited scope. Like, okay, we're bringing a couple NES games and a couple SNES games, more platforms may be coming soon. And
you guys want
just
some more Neo Geo games?
Yeah. We don't want to play just NES and SNES. I think at this point we're so expecting them to have either a very widespread offering or at least a new platform. I know for a lot of people, one way that this could get real nasty is if they have zero way for you to import over your previous purchases.
Yeah, I don't think
that's something that people are really...
I don't think that's happening at all.
I think if they offer no incentive for people that have pre-bought those games in other places, I think that's going to make some people pretty pissed.
Then people are going to be pretty pissed.
Oh, no. It's taking a dark turn.
The other one is the online, their app, the cost of the online, because we have all been kind of prepped based on rumors and leaks that the online is going to be very cheap. And not just rumors and leaks, but the Nintendo themselves said that it should be pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So if that ends up not being true, or it ends up being just incredibly goofy, I guess would be a good word, or something that feels very like kiddified, I don't think that's going to go over well either.
I don't know how you kidify online, but
well, the app and having friend codes, things like that, no easy way. They've talked about how they are going to better incorporate voice chat and better incorporate your ability to hook up with friends and then jump into games, and so it seems good, but so far that's all been in theory, and now we have to see it put into practice.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about the overall things that could make this disappointing, we do have two of us each. And since you kind of stepped on my toes a little bit, what if I start us off with Xenoblade getting delayed?
Go for it.
I've said this before, and I don't think it now, but for a little while, I thought to myself, Xenoblade 2 is not coming, this year. That game is probably, really big. I don't know how long they've been working on it, but I didn't think it was coming this year. They've mentioned it coming this year enough now that, my doubts have been, qualmed a little bit. But I think Xenoblade 2 getting delayed would be terrible. I feel like that's going to be a big game for them, especially because, Xenoblade Chronicles X and the original as well, they did, better than expected. I don't know if you remember, but, the original one on Wii was sold out at GameStop for a while. And, GameStop, sold it, a little bit above retail just because it was so rare.
And we mentioned earlier that Nintendo doesn't really delay stuff, so I guess that'd be a bad omen if at their big spotlight they said, "Oh, one of our biggest games is now delayed."
Yeah, so that would be the worst thing. I really want Xenoblade 2. I think it's gonna be really great. How do you guys feel about that?
I feel like a delay is totally. I don't think it would really shock me. I think it would be kind of make me salty just because, like you said, they have mentioned it so many times. I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles X, granted the Wii U had a limited install base, but it only shipped less than 1 million copies.
Well, how much?
We're looking.
I mean, 1 million copies for Xenoblade Chronicles X is pretty good.
Just under 900,000 copies, which I guess is pretty good. But
that is good.
It is a game that I could see them easily shifting because it is not targeting their central market in the same way that a Mario Odyssey or even a Mario plus Rabbids, Splatoon 2 are. So if it slips, I would be sad, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for me. I would just feel sad for you because I know that you would be manic.
Yeah, and just to get my second out of the way before I throw this over to you guys, the worst case scenario keeps happening. They've already done this once, and I really don't think it happens again. But we were talking like what would make this like a nightmare E3 for you, like another Metroid game that isn't a Metroid game. Like Federation Force like released and it did terrible. Nobody cared for it like because it wasn't a real Metroid game. So
Metroid Pinball coming
like,
holiday 2017 for the Nintendo Switch and the
yeah.
eShop.
Something like that, right? Like you see like Metroid like big on the screen, and then like at the very bottom it just appears pinball.
Little like bouncing ball, doink doink doink.
Yeah, so a Metroid game that isn't a Metroid game, like it is the stuff of nightmares. I think for a lot of Nintendo fans.
Gabe has called us in the middle of the night, screaming, being panting because he had a dream that they announced a Metroid and it was not a Metroid game.
I think that. I feel like that's more likely than maybe we want to believe.
I don't think it's likely at all. No, they learned. There's no way that they put out Federation Force and it sells 4,000 copies or something like that.
And no, not in that style. But well, yeah, we'll see. I think we could get. I still think we get the 2D Metroid. I still think that's what's happening.
That counts. That's totally fine.
Yeah,
I like
sure.
that. I'm with it. That's a good one.
All right, so Xenoblade 2 delayed. Gabe's cutting off his beard. Metroid isn't a Metroid. He's shaving his head.
None of these things are true.
Gives me hair.
But that I'm just saying that's the level of
Yeah, okay.
inner turmoil you'd be feeling.
All right.
All right, so on to me. I'll go next. My first one is kind of, we touched on this a little bit in terms of not spending any time on new stuff. But if they spend so much time on ARMS in Splatoon 2, I will cry. Like if they bring people out and like have like boxing gloves on, like have like this whole presentation about ARMS to remind you about it, and like go through a bunch of Splatoon 2 stuff. Like they had their directs. They went in depth in the game. They've had test punches, test fires. Like people are hyped for it already. I hope to God they do not spend a ton of time on them. I'm fine if they flash on the screen or show a little more Splatoon 2 and just to give you a little reminder that the ARMS comes out right away and Splatoon 2 is coming. But like a couple minutes tops out of their supposedly hour-long spotlight. And then that's it. Like, I don't want any more ARMS or Splatoon 2, please. And I have a fear that that very well could take up too big of a chunk on their spotlight.
Yeah, it's definitely an exercise in restraint because we know they're both going to be there. But it's just hoping that they don't get a big section. I don't think ARMS will. I think Splatoon 2 is going to be bigger than you're probably hoping, Jake, just because that game is still off in the distance, even at E3 over a month away.
Stuff and it's not repeated, then I'm okay.
Yeah, I think they could do more of a single-player spotlight, a new mode, maybe some new weaponry. I think there are things they can do with Splatoon 2 that would still be exciting. But with ARMS, yes, we've seen so much of it. They had their preview event, they had their dedicated direct, they've shown off all the modes and all the characters. So yeah, let's keep that ARMS thing to a brief mention, highlight to get you out there to the stores. But yeah, not too much time.
And then my second one is that they announce to some very fascinating, but to me personally disappointing puzzle game like they did with the Super Mario Bros. Cross Puzzle Dragon game or Puzzles and Dragons game. If they like announce like the Zelda mobile game, I've talked about this before, is like a match 3 game that has no other depth to it, that would be very saddening to me. Please don't throw a puzzle game in my face. That's all I ask.
I'm gonna throw it at your chin.
Okay. What if it's like Brain Age though, or something?
Yeah, no. But I'm saying very simplistic, like another like Tetris type game,
yeah.
match 3 type game, like. If they're trying to capitalize on this like Candy Crush type thing, like no, please don't. Like you already have Puyo Puyo Tetris on the Switch. That's enough.
Though that is your personal nightmare. I'm sure some people will be glad for more puzzlers.
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
We'll
that's why I tried to preface it. That some people may be over the moon that they get Rabbids Tetris or whatever, but I please keep the Rabbids and Tetris away from me for a while.
Yeah, I think indie puzzle titles would be fun, but I get what you're saying.
Or
in
if they
terms
have
of, like,
more depth to
let's
it, like
not
if the Zelda mobile game
make it
comes
focal.
out and it's, you know, like a
Yeah.
match 3, but like it has like leveling up and like you're going through a dungeon or something or fighting enemies with it. But if it's just strictly a match 3 or Tetris type game, I will shed a tear.
Alrighty, so my first one, another P. It's not puzzle, it's Pokemon, and I think the real worry there would be, what if Stars is just a $60 port with no real improvements? Now, on one hand, we'd be ecstatic that we're getting a Switch Pokemon game, but on the other, we'd be paying a premium for nothing significant in terms of change. And I still don't think we're going to get Stars on Switch or any Pokemon title on Switch this year. But if they did try and just sort of like squeeze that exact same style onto Switch for $60, I feel like that would be a little wrong to fans. So hopefully they stay away from that.
What if they just put Sun and Moon on Switch? Just leave it as that.
I could see it. What if it was like a deluxe double pack for $60? Then I'd be okay. But a singular
I don't think
Pokemon
they
for
should-
$60.
Yeah, if they port it over to Switch without any changes, I don't think it's going to go over well for anybody.
I guess, you know, for the greater good, any Pokemon on Switch is probably a positive because it does push more sales and it does establish the system more. But for me personally, I would rather them save that franchise
Quality
until
over
they're
quantity. My
sure.
friend.
I would rather them wait until they're ready for a big step up for Pokemon. And then the second one is, I'm super gung ho for whatever Retro is about to put out. I hope it's a new IP. I'd be cool with Metroid. I'd be even cooler with DK. But please don't make them make a Star Fox. nothing against Fox and Falco and Co. I like them as characters. I really like them in Smash. I really do not like their recent games at all. And I think that I would so much rather see DK, Metroid, Pikmin, something new stand on that stage versus Star Fox again. I think he can.
What if it's a game all about Skippy and his adventures? Or
No,
Slippy.
please
Skippy, Slippy?
put those puppets back in their box for a while and just make sure that you make good choices with Retro, because they are such a star developer, and I want them to work on something that not only is worthy of their talent but also is appealing enough and interesting enough that it makes good use of their skills. So that would definitely send me into a tizzy. And I think just in general, as long as the lineup that they have is as excellent as we expect, and as long as they have one or two surprises, I'm going to be golden.
What if Retro comes out and announces Star Fox Stitches, and it's
God.
the yarn theme of Kirby and Yoshi, but with Star Fox?
Yeah, that's what we were saying about Metroid. Like, what if Metroid is like Metroid Metal, and it's like all just different copper and silver all bent in weird shapes to make Samus, and it's like a very I almost said he. She
You
is a
actually
very it's a very just simplified adventure. Would that count as Metroid? That isn't a Metroid game?
Yeah.
Okay, so no Metal Metroid.
That giggle, though.
But we definitely are hopeful that none of this occurs in a couple of weeks, and we will make sure to keep our fingers crossed. You keep our fingers crossed as well, and let us know in the comments down below what would make Nintendo's 2017 E3 a nightmare for you. Give us one or two things that would really get
Sink your
those
ship.
tears flowing. We don't want to see it happen, but let's talk about it and try and ward it off before it becomes reality. Until that time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and are pumped for E3. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the big N and E3. None of these no-nos, only the good stuff. Thank you once again from myself, Jake, and Gabe. Switch Force out.